Let's turn now to the Washington editor of The Nation and MSNBC contributor Chris Hayes. Good evening, Chris.
Hey there, Keith.
Tough act to follow. Tax cuts now and forever, I guess, is the mantra.
Yeah, I mean that's what's so interesting when you think about this as a bipartisan compromise, right? I mean, it is. Tax cuts are the central core existential constitutive feature of the modern Republican Party. It's the one thing that everyone in the Republican Party agrees on all the time. Grover Norquist's anti-tax pledge is the kind of manifesto. It's the central plank. It's the founding document of post-Reagan republicanism. So it's not surprising that Republicans are getting behind a plan that involves a lot of tax cuts. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what they are. That's exactly what they do. I think if you compare this, which people are calling Stimulus 2.0, to the first Stimulus, the Recovery Act, that first Recovery Act really was a kind of consensus bipartisan type approach. It was half spending and half tax cuts. It got, what did it get? 3 total Republican votes in both houses, right? That's the problem, is the asymmetry there is you can't find a bargaining partner on the other end for things like public investment. You could only find a bargaining partner on their ideological terms, which is tax cuts.
And the Democrats are doing this, going along with this, and dressing this up as middle-class tax relief, etc., in order, what, simply to try to buy the votes of people who don't realize what they're actually selling is worth much more than they're going to get?
Well, no. I mean, I think the reason they're going, the reason the Democrats are going along with it in the Senate and the House, I think, is because the White House has led them into this, and they don't quite have it in them to buck the White House. I mean, I think there's some of them who also think it's a good deal substantively. The White House's thinking is basically they want to get as much money flowing out into the economy as possible, and this was the way they're able to do it. And if it has bad distributional effects, if it ends up being essentially a boon, it's what is $115 billion to the wealthiest 2% over 2 years. That's the price they're going to pay in order to get all these other things they want. And 2 years from now, they'll refight this fight. But as you said in the opening, it's hard to have a lot of confidence that they are going to do that.
And how does Austin Goolsby's remark and the overall attitude here, we'll get them in 2012 because by then it'll be proved that the Bush tax cuts for the rich don't work? They don't work now. How can you possibly sell a battle plan that you have just abandoned and say, no, we're going to do it in 2 years. We're not going to do it now. We're going to screw all of you now. But in 2 years, we're not going to do it then.
It's totally disingenuous. It's completely disingenuous on its face. First of all, they didn't work. We had them for 10 years. We had zero net job growth. So on the merits, it's very hard to make an argument that they really helped job growth. Number two, think of 2 situations. In one situation, the economy does really well in the next 2 years, and every Republican will say, look, the recovery was caused by the extension of this tax cut regime. We have to keep them in place. Okay, fine. Let's say the economy doesn't do well and recovery is anemic and unemployment is very high. The Republicans are going to use the same argument, which is that you cannot raise taxes in the midst of a recession, right? So either way, they're going to be arguing for more tax cuts. If you can't make the argument now, it's unclear why you can make the argument in 2 years.
All right, parse this for me. This is the statement to the local station interview from the president. I can confidently say that, and I haven't made an announcement if I ran for re-election, I can confidently say that I would not extend the Bush tax cuts for the well-to-do beyond this 2-year deal. I can confidently say that. Your turn.
Well, look, this is exactly why I think the kind of hostage metaphor is sort of useful insofar as the problem with the hostage situation, the reason that they don't negotiate with hostages as a rule with hostage takers is because you need a credible denial threat, right? You don't want to incentivize future actions. If you give in once, then you incentivize future givens. And this is exactly from a game theory perspective, this is the problem the president has. What credible threat is there that he will now, having blinked here, that he will stare them down and blink again? Because remember, it's going to be the same ticking time bomb. That was the thing that set this all up to begin with, this completely preposterous, disingenuous policy 10 years ago, which sunsetted all the tax cuts to make them look artificially smaller, knowing full well it would be very hard to raise them back to restore the rates after 10 years. It's the same time bomb that has been put in place here. So if you were unable to sort of stand your ground and let it blow up this time, then you have very little credibility going into the next negotiation. You could do it next time.
During a presidential election campaign.
Yes, exactly.
The Washington editor of The Nation, Chris Hayes. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Keith.